So our last major thing before the Civil War officially starts, the last cause of the war itself, is the election of 1860. Now, you may think it's kind of weird, how could you have an election be a cause? Right? Well, this was extremely heated, very divided election. We had 4 candidates who were all viable options for office. You had 2 different Democrats. You had Northern Democrat Stephen Douglas. You had Southern Democrat John Breckinridge. You had Republican Abe Lincoln. And then you had, from the election of 1860 only, this is a special edition election, the Constitutional Union Party. Their guy was John Bell. Now, each of these 4 guys had very different views on what the country should look like moving forward. Okay, we had Douglas, whose view towards slavery, as always, the best way to handle slavery was popular sovereignty. Let the people vote. You had John Breckinridge, whose view on slavery was very popular in the South. Slavery everywhere. You had Lincoln, who kept the Republican line of no new slave states. Contain slavery where it was, but stop it from expanding. Right? If you already had slaves, keep your slaves, that's fine. But no new slave states. And then you had John Bell, who's just swinging for the fences with this one. Basically, his plan was, guys, the Missouri Compromise was great. Let's just pretend the last 30 years didn't happen, last 40 years. Let's go back to that compromise line. Everything was okay then, and it'll be okay now. Don't worry about bleeding Kansas where people are killing each other. Let's just rewind and chill out. Right? So all of these ideas, very different. All of these ideas definitely led to sectional tension, as we've been saying, especially because of how anti-Republican the South was. They did not allow Lincoln to be on the ballot at all. Right? So if you were a Floridian in the 1860 election, you would go to your polling place and you would have 3 options. A Northern Democrat, a Southern Democrat, and a dude from the Constitutional Union Party. So you would pick the best from amongst them. Florida voted Breckinridge. This was fine for most of the Democrats until the next day or a couple weeks later when election results came through and Lincoln won. Now imagine you're living in this time period and you hear from your newspapers, the town crier or whatever the heck they had back then. I mean, they didn't have Twitter, so who knows. You had people telling you the big bad Northern Republicans are going to come along and take your slaves away. The Northerners are trying to steal this election. The Northerners and Lincoln are evil and they want to change our way of life. And then when you go to vote, this Lincoln guy wasn't even an option, and now all of a sudden he became president. They stole the election. This narrative was very easy to spin in the South during this time period. It led to sectional tension. It led to South Carolina just saying, all right guys, I'm out. And they were the first to secede from our country. South Carolina, the king of the South. South Carolina, the head of the snake. Once they dropped off, all the rest of those Confederate states followed. We have the Civil War. Right, but here's our differences between the four candidates. Here's the differences on their viewpoints towards slavery. That was the big divider. And this led to tension. This was the final nail in the coffin. This split the North and the South. They broke up. It was an ugly breakup. People had to pick sides. And it led to the Civil War. Right? So if you guys have any questions, there's a discussion post in Canvas for you to check out. I'm going to post pictures of the board, and if you need anything else, let me know. We got this, though.